The moment Captain Ayan Raza stepped through the wrong maintenance hatch, the air turned sweet like burned flowers, and the next sound he heard was a woman humming in a language that made the walls vibrate. He had 3 seconds to turn back. He didn't, and that single mistake placed him inside the most guarded room on an alien planet, where humans were not supposed to even breathe. Ayan's wrist scanner flickered, like it was panicking. He tapped it twice, then slapped the side of it the way old engineers taught him back on Earth. The display returned, but the lines were wrong. The palace map twisted into shapes that made no sense. Corridors looping into themselves, doors connected to nothing, and a blinking warning that read, "Space inconsistency." "Hi." "Great," Ayan muttered. "The building is haunted." He wasn't supposed to be this deep inside the royal compound of Nerithus Prime. Humans were guests here, temporary workers hired for one reason: fix what the Nerithai couldn't. The aliens were brilliant at biology, politics, and terrifying ceremony. But when it came to mechanical systems, they treated machines like living spirits. If a pipe broke, they performed a ritual. If a generator failed, they prayed and blamed the moon. Humans did not pray to generators. Humans opened them, crawled inside, and made them behave. That's why Earth's Union had sent Ayan, a calm, sharp-minded maintenance captain with more patience than most soldiers. He wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the loudest, but he had a gift that made humans dangerous in any galaxy. He could solve problems under pressure. For 2 weeks, he had been repairing climate vents, water systems, and power conduits beneath the palace of the Nerithai Queen, an ocean-colored fortress built from shining stone and living coral metal that changed shape with heat. Every day, palace guards escorted him through the outer sections like he was a fragile explosive device. Every day, the guards warned him of the same thing: do not enter the inner sanctums. Do not touch sealed doors. Do not wander. Ayan followed the rules, mostly, but today, the palace itself seemed determined to break them. He had been ordered to inspect a pressure drop in the lower water reclamation lines. A simple task, a quick repair, 10 minutes, maybe. Instead, he found a corridor that wasn't on the blueprint. The walls here were smoother, the air warmer, and the lighting softer, like someone wanted this place to feel safe. Maintenance hallways never felt safe. His boots echoed as he approached the hatch marked with silver seal. The seal wasn't a warning sign. It wasn't even a lock. It was a symbol, 3 curved lines forming a crown over a circle. Ayan's translator lens flashed a label: Royal Privacy Zone. He stopped. He should have turned around. He should have called the palace handler, asked for new coordinates, waited for permission. But the pressure drop was here. His tools confirmed it. And the hatch was vibrating faintly, like water was racing behind it. If the line burst, it could flood multiple sections, including the hydroponic chambers that fed half the palace. And if he failed the contract, Earth would lose its only foothold in Nerithai space. Ayan sighed, pinched the bridge of his nose, and whispered, "Okay, quick in, quick out." He pressed his human authorization chip against the panel. The hatch didn't unlock. It melted, not into liquid, into shimmering light, folding away like a curtain. Ayan froze. That wasn't engineering. That was something else. His scanner screamed again. Unregistered field detected. Then the warm air hit him, steam mixed with perfume and minerals. His eyes stung for a second as he stepped through, and then he saw it. A chamber of black stone and glowing water, filled with mist. The ceiling arched high above, carved with patterns that looked like flowing waves. The entire room hummed softly, like it was alive. And in the center, half submerged in a pool, sat a Nerithai woman. Not just any Nerithai. Her skin shimmered pale blue under the waterlight. Her hair, long and silver, was pinned up with golden spines shaped like coral branches. Her ears were swept back and decorated with a ring crown of gemstone bands. Ayan had seen Nerithai nobles before. This was different. This was royalty carved into flesh. His throat went dry. The humming stopped. The woman turned her head slowly, water sliding off her shoulder like liquid moonlight. Her eyes were not like human eyes. They were deep, dark, and bright all at once, like a storm holding lightning inside. Ayan's brain tried to deny reality. This couldn't be happening. He had stepped into a private royal bath. He had stepped into the private bath of the most protected being on the planet. He had stepped into a death sentence. Ion began, then failed to find the rest of the sentence. He snapped his gaze upward to the ceiling, as if the carved stone could save him. I'm sorry. Wrong hatch. Bad map. I'm leaving. He turned, fast, reaching for the shimmering doorway. But the voice behind him was calm. Close it. Ion stopped so suddenly his boots squeaked against stone. He didn't turn around. He couldn't. My translator might be wrong, he said carefully, staring at the ceiling. Did you say close it? Yes, the woman replied. Close the door. From inside, Ion's fingers hovered over control. Every survival instinct, he had screamed to run. But he was a guest in an alien palace, and the queen, because his mind was now certain she was a queen, had given an order. He closed it. The light curtain folded back into place, sealing the chamber. Silence thickened. Steam swirled around him like ghost breath. He could hear water shifting as the queen moved slightly. Now, she said, look at me. Ion swallowed. Your Majesty would respect. I would strongly prefer to keep my eyes on the ceiling until the end of time. A soft, almost amused sound came from the water. You are human. Yes. You fear dishonor. I fear being executed. That too, she said, and for a moment, her voice carried something unexpected, tiredness. Look at me, not my body, my face. I want to see whether you are lying. Slowly, like a man defusing a bomb, Ion lowered his gaze to her face and held it there, up close. He saw details that made his stomach drop. There were faint marks along her collarbone, lines that didn't match jewelry or age. Scars, not old, but not fresh either, carefully hidden by water, shadow, and angle. Ion had seen scars on soldiers and survivors. These were not ceremonial scars. These were violent scars. The queen's eyes sharpened. You saw them, she said. Ion's pulse pounded. I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Yes, she replied softly. And now you will tell me something. Ion waited, barely breathing. Her voice lowered, almost a whisper. Do humans always build maps that lie? She asked. Or is my palace the only place where doors open into secrets? Ion's mind raced. He could lie. He could pretend he saw nothing. He could beg. But something in her gaze said begging would make it worse. So he spoke the truth. Your palace is wrong, he said. It's built like a puzzle, like it wants to hide things. The queen's expression didn't change, but her fingers clenched beneath the water. That is because it was designed to protect me, she said. From enemies, from spies, from my own people. Ion's chest tightened. Your own people? The queen's eyes held as like a blade held to skin. Human, she said. What you just saw is proof that I am not what my court believes. Ion's breath caught. What do they believe? They believe I cannot be harmed, the queen said. They believe their ruler is untouched by weakness. Ion didn't speak. He couldn't. The queen leaned forward slightly, and the waterline shifted just enough that Ion saw more of the truth. A pattern of scars, careful, hidden, but real, crossing her shoulder like a story written in pain. Then she said the sentence that made Ion realize he was no longer in a misunderstanding. He was in a war that hadn't started yet. They tried to kill me, the queen whispered. And if my people learn I survived with scars, they will finish what the assassin started. Ion's heart hammered in his throat. Outside this chamber, thousands of guards, nobles, servants, and officials lived their routines. And inside the steam-filled silence, a human mechanic had just become the keeper of a secret that could burn an empire. The queen watched him carefully. Now, she said, voice steady as stone, I will ask you one question, Captain Ion Raza. Ion froze at hearing his full name. He hadn't told her that. I can have you erased, she continued. I can have you removed quietly. Her eyes narrowed. Or I can use you. Ion barely managed to speak. Use me how? The queen's mouth curved into something that wasn't a smile. A warning. Humans are famous for solving problems the universe considers impossible, she said. So tell me, and the chamber seemed to hum louder, as if the palace itself was listening. Can you keep a secret that could shatter my throne, and still help me win the war that's coming? Ion did not answer the queen right away, not because he lacked courage, but because he understood something very human in that moment. This was not a question that allowed hesitation. This was the kind of question where the wrong answer killed you, and the right answer changed your life forever. Steam curled through the chamber like a living thing. The water rippled softly as the Queen of Nerithus Prime watched him with an intensity that made Ion feel like a system under full diagnostic scan. She was not threatening him. She was measuring him. Ion finally exhaled. "Your Majesty," he said slowly, choosing every word like a tool from a kit. "Humans aren't good at secrets because we're pure or noble." Her eyes flickered with interest. "We're good at secrets because we live with fear every day. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of being small in a universe that doesn't care." He met her gaze fully now. "If keeping your secret keeps people alive, including you, then yes, I can keep it." The Queen studied him in silence. The hum of the chamber deepened, resonating through Ion's bones. "And if someone offers you power?" she asked. "Status? Wealth? Protection?" Ion shrugged lightly. "I fix broken things for a living. Power usually breaks faster than pipes." For a moment, the Queen looked almost startled. Then she laughed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't royal. It was brief and sharp and very real. "That," she said, "is the most dangerous thing anyone has said to me in years." She shifted in the water, and Ion instinctively turned his gaze upward again. "You may leave now," she continued. "But understand this. What you have seen binds you to me, whether you wish it or not." Ion nodded. "I understand." "Good," she said, "because the palace will not forget you." The doorway shimmered open behind him. Just before he stepped through, she spoke again. "My name is Queen Salivera," she said. "You will not use it in public, but you will remember it." Ion paused. "Then remember mine too," he replied quietly. "Not as a secret, as a person." For the first time, Queen Salith's eyes softened. "I will," she said. The door sealed, and Ion Raza walked out of the royal bath chamber, carrying a secret heavy enough to bend empires. The next days passed like a slow tightening coil. Ion returned to his duties, crawling through vents and repairing systems like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. The palace watched him now. Not openly, not aggressively, but subtly. Doors opened a second slower. Security drones hovered just a little longer. Servants studied him with unreadable expressions. And somewhere deep in the palace, Queen Salith watched too. 3 days later, his wrist scanner flashed an unfamiliar signal. "Maintenance request. Inner Gardens. Priority Royal." Ion frowned. The Inner Gardens were off limits to all non-Nerithai personnel, except, apparently, to humans who had accidentally seen too much. He followed the coordinates through corridors that shifted as he walked, walls sliding aside like thoughts changing mid-sentence. At the heart of the gardens, he found her. Queen Salith stood among towering bioluminescent plants, her royal robes flowing like liquid starlight. Guards waited at a distance, carefully turned away. "You came," she said. "I was ordered," Ion replied. Humans respect work orders. She gestured for him to walk with her. They moved slowly through the glowing paths, the air filled with the sound of distant water and humming leaves. "Since the attempt on my life," Salith said calmly, "I have ruled under a lie." Ion said nothing. He listened. "My people believe Nerithai queens are chosen because we are untouchable," she continued. "Perfect, beyond harm, beyond fear." She stopped walking. "But perfection does not survive knives," she said quietly. Ion felt something tighten in his chest. "They hid your scars to protect stability," he said. "No," she corrected. "They hid them to protect the myth." She turned to him. "And myths are fragile." Ion nodded. "On Earth, we learned something early." "What?" "That pretending you're unbreakable just means no one prepares for the moment you break." Salith studied him as if that idea hurt, and healed at the same time. "There are factions within my court," she said. "They are watching for weakness. waiting for proof that I am no longer worthy. Ion frowned. And they think weakness is being hurt? They think weakness is being seen, she replied. They walked again. What you saw in that chamber, Sailor said, is proof that my enemies came closer than anyone knows, that my defenses failed once. And they could fail again, Ion finished. Yes. She stopped near a pool where glowing fish moved in perfect formation. The war that is coming, she said, will not begin with ships or weapons. It will begin with belief. Ion felt a chill. They will test you, Sailor continued. They will test your loyalty. They will try to separate us. Ion snorted softly. I'm a human contractor. If they want to intimidate me, they're welcome to try. Earth Customs officers already broke my soul. That earned him another small, real smile. I did not summon you to threaten you, Sailor said. I summoned you because humans see what others ignore. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. My people are preparing for an external threat, another empire at our borders. They believe strength is stillness, control, silence. Ion shook his head slowly. Strength is adaptation. Yes, she said. That is why I need you. Ion stopped walking. I'm not a strategist, he said. I don't command fleets. You command perspective, Sailor replied. You're not trapped inside our traditions. She looked at him directly. And you are the only being in this palace who knows I survived and did not see that survival's weakness. The words hit harder than any threat. Ion realized then that this was not about maintenance access or accidental doors. This was about trust. And humans, for all their flaws, had one dangerous habit. When someone trusted them with something fragile, they tended to protect it fiercely. What do you want me to do? Ion asked. Sailor's gaze hardened, not with cruelty, but with resolve. I want you to help me redesign the palace systems, she said. Not just pipes and air. Ion blinked. You want me to find the flaws, she finished, the hidden weaknesses, the places my enemies might strike again. Ion felt the weight of it settle fully now. You want a human to break your palace, he said quietly. So that no one else can, she replied. A distant alarm chimed softly. Court schedules shifting. Sailor straightened. Queen again. Our conversations will remain invisible, she said. You will continue your work. You will be watched. She paused. But you will not be alone. Ion nodded once. Then neither will you. As she turned to leave, Ion realized something terrifying and inspiring. Humans had not been invited into Narration power. They had slipped in through a maintenance hatch. And sometimes that was all it took to change the fate of a civilization. The first thing Ion learned after becoming the Queen's secret weapon was this. The Narration Palace was not built to survive curiosity. It was built to survive obedience. From the outside, the structure looked flawless. Smooth towers of living stone, self-healing walls, corridors that adjusted to foot traffic. Narration engineers had designed it so nothing ever appeared broken. But humans didn't look for appearances. They looked for stress points. Ion stood alone in a sublevel chamber, surrounded by floating holograms of the palace's systems. He had been given limited access, officially for efficiency improvements. Unofficially, Queen Sailor wanted him to see everything. His scanner painted the palace in red and blue. Blue meant stable. Red meant danger. The palace was bleeding red. Unbelievable, Ion muttered. Security redundancies overlapped in ways that looked impressive, but actually canceled each other out. Emergency systems were routed through ceremonial hubs because ancient tradition demanded it. Critical power nodes were left exposed because no one believed anyone would dare touch them, because no one dared, except humans. On Earth, Ion had grown up in a city where systems failed constantly. Water lines froze. Power grids collapsed. Governments lied about safety until something exploded. Humans survived by assuming failure was inevitable. Narration survived by pretending failure was impossible. That difference was about to matter. Ion sent a private data packet through a channel Queen Salith had authorized personally. Subject: Palace Vulnerability Assessment. Preliminary. 3 seconds later, her reply arrived. Proceed. Quietly. So he did. Over the next week, Ion fixed systems that didn't need fixing, mapping routes no one had questioned in centuries. He crawled through forgotten maintenance tunnels, discovered ceremonial doors that bypassed security entirely, and found that half the palace relied on honor codes instead of locks. One night, while calibrating a thermal regulator, he realized something chilling. The assassination attempt had not failed because the palace was strong. It had failed because the attacker made one wrong assumption. They assumed Nerathai systems behaved logically. They did not. They behaved traditionally. That meant the next attempt would be smarter. Ion requested at a private meeting. It happened in a place no one monitored, the atmospheric exchange chamber above the gardens. Wind moved through transparent walls, carrying the scent of glowing flowers. Queen Salith arrived without guards. That alone tells me you trust me too much, Ion said. She smiled faintly. Or that I understand humans value honesty over theater. He activated a hologram between them. This, he said, is how they'll kill you next time. Salith's eyes sharpened. Ion pointed to a glowing line running through the palace core. Your emergency water systems, he explained. They're routed through a ceremonial chamber. Beautiful, symbolic, completely unguarded during festivals. Salith inhaled slowly. They could flood the inner sanctums, she said. Or poison them, Ion replied, without triggering alarms. Your systems assume anyone inside that chamber is loyal. Salith's hands clenched. Why was this not detected? She asked. Because no one was looking for betrayal from within, Ion said. Humans always do. Silence stretched. You survived once, Ion continued, because luck and tradition collided. Next time they won't. Salith closed her eyes briefly. Then we change the palace, she said. No, Ion corrected gently. You change how you think about power. She looked at him. Strength isn't hiding scars, he said. It's preparing for knife. That night, the redesign began, not with grand announcements, not with visible change, but with humans doing what humans did best, quietly rewriting reality. The first test came sooner than expected. During a public celebration marking the signing of a trade accord, palace sensors detected a false fire alarm in the eastern ceremonial wing. Tradition dictated that security pull back to allow priests to perform purification rites. Ion had predicted this. Instead, hidden human-coded subroutines rerouted authority. Security did not withdraw. They locked down silently. When palace guards intercepted the intruders, disguised as ceremonial attendants, the shock on their faces was unmistakable. They had never expected resistance. Queen Salith stood before the council later that night, calm and radiant. There was an incident, she announced. It was resolved. No details, no fear, but behind the scenes, she summoned Ion. They tried to kill me again, she said, voice steady. Yes, Ion replied, and they failed again. This time, because humans had planned for betrayal, news spread to the court in whispers. Something had changed. The palace no longer behaved the way it used to. Doors closed faster. Security moved differently. And at the center of it all was a human who walked the halls like he belonged there. That made people nervous. Lord Vareth, head of internal governance, noticed first. He summoned Ion under the pretense of a system audit. You have access you should not, Vareth said, his voice smooth. Humans are efficient, but efficiency can be invasive. Ion smiled politely. So can assassination attempts, he said. Vareth's eyes flickered. You speak dangerously. I repair dangerous systems, Ion replied, including governments. That night, Ion warned Salith. They're watching me now, he said. She nodded. Then it is working. But it means they'll move faster, Ion added. Yes, she said, and so will we. What neither of them realized yet was that this conflict was no longer just about Nerathai politics. External sensors detected fleet movements beyond the system. Another empire had noticed the instability, and they had noticed the humans. When Salith received the report, she stared at the stars longer than usual. Humans break things, she said softly. Ion shook his head. No, he corrected. We break assumptions. Outside the palace, ships began to gather. Inside, traditions began to crack. And for the first time in centuries, an alien civilization prepared for war not with myths, but with human thinking. The first alien fleet crossed into Narration space without firing a single shot. That alone terrified the court. On the outer edge of the system, long-range sensors detected vessels shaped like blades, sleek, silent, and deliberately unannounced. They belonged to the Kepral Dominion, an empire known not for conquest, but for absorption. They did not invade worlds. They destabilized them, then arrived as saviors. Queen Sayla stood before the star map in the strategy chamber, surrounded by generals, nobles, and advisors who spoke in confident tones that did not match the data. They are posturing, one noble declared. They respect Narathai's sovereignty, another said. Our defenses are absolute, a third insisted. Ion stood quietly near the back, hands folded, eyes on projections. He hated that sentence. Our defenses are absolute. Humans had buried entire cities under those words. Sayla felt his presence before she looked at him. She had learned that when Ion was silent, something was wrong. Captain Raza, she said, cutting to the room. You have been quiet. Every head turned toward the human. Ion took a slow breath. With respect, Your Majesty, the Kepru are not here for fight. Murmurs spread instantly. Then why are they here? A general snapped. Because they think you're already losing, Ion replied. The room stiffened. Ion stepped forward, activating his wrist display. Human projections layered over Narathai's star maps. Simpler, harsher, stripped of ceremonial design. They've studied your response patterns, he continued. They know about the assassination attempt. They know something shook your court. They're waiting for you to fracture. Saylatha's jaw tightened. You speak with certainty, she said. Ion nodded. Because humans do this too. When we see an empire pretending nothing is wrong, we assume something is very wrong. A noble scoffed. You presume too much. Ion looked at him calmly. You presume silence equals strength. That landed harder than shouting ever could. Saylath raised a hand. Silence fell. What would you advise? She asked. Ion hesitated, then committed fully. Stop pretending, he said. Stop acting untouchable. The Kepral don't fear perfection. They exploit it. The chamber stirred uneasily. You want us to show weakness? A general demanded. No, Ion replied. You show truth. Sayla studied him carefully. Explain. Ion met her gaze. Humans learn something the hard way. When leaders pretend they can't bleed, they shatter the moment they do. But when leaders admit survival, people rally. A long pause followed. Then Sayla did something no Narathai queen had done in recorded history. She dismissed the chamber. All of it. Only Ion remained. Say it plainly, she said. You don't win this by hiding your scars, Ion said. You win by redefining what they mean. The broadcast went out 3 hours later. Across Narathai Prime, every public space lit up. Queen Sayla appeared alone. No advisors, no ceremonial symbols, no illusion fields. Just her. My people, she said calmly. 3 cycles ago, someone tried to kill me. Shock rippled across the planet. I survived, she continued. Not because I am invulnerable, but because I am resilient. She paused. I hid the truth because our traditions taught me that survival was weakness. Her hands moved, slow and deliberate, and for the first time, she revealed the scars. Gasps echoed through cities, ships, and halls. These marks are proof I was tested, Sayla said, and proof that I endured. Her voice hardened. If any believe this disqualifies me, then you never believe in strength at all. The feed cut. Silence followed. Then something unexpected happened. The streets did not riot. The court did not collapse. Instead, voices rose. Narathai civilians, workers, soldiers, engineers began speaking openly, sharing stories of injury, failure, and survival they had hidden their entire lives. The myth cracked, and instead of chaos, something stronger filled the gap. Unity. The Kepal Dominion reacted immediately. Their ambassador arrived within hours, masked and smiling. You show vulnerability at a dangerous time. The ambassador said smoothly during the private audience. Salith did not look away. I show truth. The ambassador's gaze slid to Ion. And you involve humans in sacred matters. Ion smiled faintly. You're welcome. The ambassador's eyes narrowed. You believe this makes you unpredictable, he said to Salith. It makes you expose. Ion stepped forward before she could respond. No, he said. It makes us honest. The ambassador laughed softly. Honesty does not stop fleets. Neither does arrogance, Ion replied. The ambassador departed soon after. That night, long-range sensors flared. The Keppel fleet began to reposition, not to attack, to surround. They're tightening the net, a general reported. Salith turned to Ion. What now? Ion's expression was calm, but focused. Now, he said, we do the thing humans are best at. What is that? We turn their plan against them. In hidden bays beneath the palace, human engineers and Narration technicians worked side by side for the first time, without hierarchy. Old systems were dismantled, replaced with modular designs, adaptable, flexible, unpredictable. Ion coordinated everything. No single point of failure. No ceremonial priority. Only function. When the Keppel finally made their move, disabling external communication nodes, they expected panic. Instead, Narration systems rerouted instantly. Human logic had been embedded deep. The Keppel commander hesitated. That is not possible, he said. Humans had heard that before. Salith watched the stars from the palace balcony, scars visible beneath simple robes. They underestimated us, she said. Ion shook his head. They underestimated what happens when people stop pretending. The Keppel fleet halted, then, astonishingly, began to withdraw. They had come to absorb a fragile empire. Instead, they found one that had learned to bend without breaking. Later, in the quiet after crisis, Salith turned to Ion. You changed my people, she said. No, Ion replied gently. They were already strong. They just needed permission to be real. Salith looked out at the stars. The war is not over, she said. Ion nodded. No, but now you're ready for it. And somewhere beyond the system, other empires were watching the civilization that survived by embracing what humans had always known. Survival is not weakness. It is proof. The Keppel fleet did not retreat because it was afraid. It retreated because it was confused. Confusion was rare among the Keppel Dominion. Their power came from prediction, studying cultures, identifying stress fractures, and applying pressure until systems collapsed from within. They did not conquer with force. They conquered with certainty. And certainty had just failed. Deep inside the Keppel command vessel, analysts replayed the same data again and again. The Narration palace systems had rerouted too quickly. Civil morale had risen instead of falling. The Queen had exposed vulnerability and gained strength. That broke every model. Humans, the Keppel commander said slowly, are the variable. Back on Narration Prime, Ion felt it before anyone told him. The palace was too quiet. Not the calm of peace, but the stillness that came before a storm. He stood in the primary systems hub, watching data flow across multiple layers. External sensors showed the Keppel fleet holding position just beyond effective weapons range. Too far to engage. Too close to ignore. They're waiting, Ion muttered. Queen Salith entered the chamber moments later, her expression composed but alert. She no longer hid her scars. They were visible now, part her presence, no longer symbols of shame. You were right, she said. They didn't leave. No, Ion replied. They recalculated. Salith folded her hands behind her back. What happens when an enemy cannot predict you? Ion's eyes stayed on the data. They escalate. As if summoned by his words, an alert chimed. Incoming transmission, Keppel Dominion. The ambassador's image appeared, tall, masked, and perfectly still. Queen Salith, the ambassador said smoothly, your recent transparency has caused concern. Saleth met the gaze without hesitation. Truth often does. The ambassador tilted its head slightly. You have destabilized regional expectations. You have disrupted balance. Ion leaned closer to Saleth and whispered, "Here it comes." The ambassador continued. Therefore, the Dominion offers protection, integration, guidance. Saleth's voice was calm. And if we refuse? The ambassador paused, just long enough for the threat to settle. Then instability may resolve itself. Ion stepped forward into frame. "Let me translate that," he said. "You're going to try to scare them." The ambassador's eyes shifted. Human input was not requested. Ion smiled. "It rarely is." Saleth did not stop him. Ion faced the projection fully. "You've been studying Narathai tradition," he said. "That's why you're losing." The ambassador remained silent. "You think cultures collapse when leaders admit weakness," Ion continued. "That only works when people already feel alone." Saleth stepped beside him. "They are not alone anymore," she said. The ambassador's image flickered, just slightly. "Human," it said, "you are overestimating your influence." Ion shook his head. "No, you're underestimating what humans do best." "And what is that?" the ambassador asked. Ion's voice was steady. "We adapt fast in fear." The transmission ended. Silence followed. Then alarms sounded, not attacks, but movement. The Keppel fleet shifted into a wider formation. "They're deploying observers," a technician reported. "Not weapons." Saleth frowned. "Observers?" Ion nodded slowly. "They're studying us." "Why?" she asked. "Because they don't know how to break us yet." That was worse. The next phase didn't come from space. It came from inside. 3 days later, internal sensors flagged unauthorized gatherings across the capital. Not riots, not protests, discussions. Narathai citizens, nobles and workers alike, were meeting openly, questioning traditions that had never been questioned before. "Your transparency triggered this," a council member warned Saleth. "People are challenging authority." "Yes," Saleth replied. "That was inevitable." "They are demanding change," the council member pressed. Ion listened quietly. Then he spoke. "That's not a rebellion," he said. "That's engagement." The council member scoffed. "You humans confuse chaos with progress." Ion met his gaze. "No, we confuse silence with danger." Saleth raised a hand. "Enough. The people will speak. And I will listen." That alone shook the council more than any alien fleet. Later that night, Saleth and Ion stood on the palace balcony, looking out over the glowing city. "My reign may not survive this," she said quietly. Ion didn't answer right away. "On Earth," he said finally, "the leaders we remember aren't the ones who lasted the longest." She turned to him. "They're the ones who changed the direction," he finished. Saleth exhaled slowly. "I was raised to believe my duty was to be unbreakable," she said. "Now I wonder if my duty is to be honest." Ion nodded. "That's when leaders become dangerous to enemies." Below them, the city lights pulsed brighter than before. In orbit, Keppel sensors struggled to interpret the data. The Narathai weren't fracturing. They were evolving. And humans had introduced a concept the Dominion feared deeply: unpredictable unity. The message arrived at dawn, not from the Keppel, from Earth. Earth Union Command, priority. Ion opened it alone. The message was brief. "Captain Raza, multiple empires are observing Narathai space. Human involvement noted. Prepare for diplomatic consequences." Ion stared at the stars. Humans had never intended to become a factor here, but history had taught the universe something uncomfortable. When humans entered the system, even quietly, they changed how power worked. Ion sent a single reply. "Understood." Then he went to find the Queen, because the next phase wouldn't be subtle. And the universe was about to learn something it always did, eventually. Humans weren't the strongest species. They weren't the smartest. But once they committed to protecting something, they became very hard to remove. The Keppel Dominion changed tactics. When intimidation failed, They moved to something far more dangerous. Legitimacy. Ion was reviewing orbital traffic when the alert came in. This time not an alarm, but a diplomatic classification, so rare it made his stomach tighten. Multi-Empire Conclave requested neutral space. That was bad. Neutral conclaves weren't for peace. They were for judgment. Queen Salith read the message in silence, then handed it back to Ion. They want witnesses, she said. Observers. They want to decide whether Narration Prime remains sovereign or becomes guided. Ion nodded slowly. That's how empires die politely. Salith looked at him. And how do humans survive it? Ion exhaled. By refusing to let others define the story. The conclave station floated between stars like a blade balanced on air, ancient, massive, and designed to intimidate. Representatives from 12 civilizations arrived in vessels that screamed power in different ways. Humans arrived last. A single Earth cruiser. No weapons flared. No formation. Just presence. Ion walked beside Queen Salith into the chamber, feeling eyes on him from every angle. He could sense it. The calculation, the curiosity. A scarred queen. A human mechanic. An empire under scrutiny. The Keppel ambassador spoke first. Narration Prime has demonstrated instability. It said smoothly. Leadership deviation. Cultural erosion. External contamination. Its gaze lingered on Ion. Human influence. Murmurs rippled across the chamber. Salith stepped forward. We survived an assassination attempt, she said. We adapted. We grew stronger. The ambassador tilted its head. You expose weakness. Ion spoke before Salith could respond. No, he said. She exposed reality. Several delegates turned toward him. Humans have a long history, Ion continued. Every time someone tells us we're unstable because we change, we check the ruins left behind by those who refuse to. The Keppel ambassador's tone sharpened. This conclave is not for philosophy. Ion nodded. Good. Then let's talk results. He activated a display. Data flooded the chamber. Crime reduction. Infrastructure efficiency. Military readiness. Civil morale. All improved since transparency. Ion said calmly. You call that erosion. We call it optimization. The chamber grew quiet. One by one, delegates studied the data. Then something unexpected happened. A smaller empire's representative spoke. We experienced similar reforms, it said hesitantly. When our leader survived an attack, we stabilized afterward. Another voice joined. So did we? The Keppel ambassador stiffened. This wasn't supposed to spread. Salith looked at Ion, realization dawning. Human thinking was contagious. Enough, the ambassador said sharply. This is irrelevant. The question is control. Ion's expression hardened. And that, he said, is where you lose. The ambassador turned toward him. Explain. Ion met its gaze without fear. You don't understand something fundamental about humans, he said. We don't protect leaders because they're perfect. We protect them because they're ours. The chamber held its breath. And once people decide something is theirs, Ion continued. They fight smarter, harder, together. Salith stepped forward, scars visible, voice steady. I will not accept protection that demands silence, she said. If that disqualifies us from your approval, so be it. For the first time, the Keppel ambassador hesitated. The conclave recessed. Hours passed. When the decision returned, it wasn't what the Dominion wanted. Narithai's sovereignty affirmed. Human observer status granted. The Keppel influence had failed. Quietly, dangerously, on the return journey, Ion stood alone in the observation deck, watching stars slide past. Salith joined him. You risked everything, she said, for a world not your own. Ion smiled faintly. Humans do that sometimes. She studied him. Why? Ion thought of Earth, of broken cities, of leaders who survived and kept going. Because once you see someone stand back up, he said, you don't let the universe push them back down. Salith placed a hand over the scars on her shoulder. They will remember this, she said. The empires. Ion nodded. Good. Outside the viewport, distant fleets adjusted course. The galaxy had noticed. Humans were no longer just workers. They were catalysts. And somewhere in the dark, powers far older than the Kepler began to reconsider something they had believed for millennia, that humanity was insignificant. They were wrong. The galaxy did not explode into war after the conclave. That surprised everyone, especially the empires that had built their power on the assumption that fear was louder than truth. For the first time in recorded interstellar history, a ruling empire had survived an assassination attempt, admitted it publicly, rejected outside protection, and grown stronger because of it. And humans had been at the center of that transformation, not with weapons, not with fleets, but with a way of thinking the universe was not prepared for. Weeks after the conclave, Queen Sayla stood before the full Nerthai assembly, not hidden behind illusion fields, not elevated above them by ritual platforms. She stood at their level. Her scars were visible. Her voice was calm. Our strength was never perfection, she said. It was survival, and survival belongs to all of us. This time, there was no shock, only resolve. Nerthai culture shifted, not violently, not suddenly, but irreversibly. Systems were redesigned. Power was decentralized. Traditions were questioned, refined, not erased. And humans were invited, not as masters, not as saviors, but as collaborators. That alone sent ripples through the stars. Ayan Raza never became famous. That was intentional. He returned to what he knew best, building systems that assumed failure and planned beyond it. He trained Nerthai engineers in human redundancy logic. He taught them how to ask, what if instead of why would that happen? In return, he learned patience, perspective, and something deeply alien, how to carry history without being crushed by it. One evening, as stars burned low over the palace gardens, Sayla found him repairing a stabilizer node. You could return to Earth, she said. You'd be welcomed. Ayan smiled faintly. Earth will still be there. She studied him. And here, he said, tightening the last bolt. Feels like something worth protecting. Sayla nodded slowly. You changed how my people see strength, she said. Ayan shook his head. No, you did that when you stood up and showed the truth. She paused. Then you stayed, she said. Yes, Ayan replied. Humans tend to do that once we commit. Far beyond Nerthai space, in councils older than Sayla's civilization, observers reviewed reports. Human behavioral impact, high. Predictive modeling accuracy, failing. Cultural influence spread, accelerating. One ancient intelligence summarized it simply. Humans do not conquer systems, it concluded. They destabilize lies. And lies, once destabilized, collapsed on their own. The Kepler Dominion withdrew quietly from the region months later. They never announced defeat. They never needed to. Every empire watching understood the message. You could intimidate humans. You could outgun them. You could even outnumber them. But once humans embedded themselves into your systems, your culture, your way of thinking, you could not remove them without dismantling yourself. On the anniversary of the assassination attempt, Sayla stood alone in the original bath chamber. The room no longer hid behind illusions. It was simply a room, a place where truth had entered by accident. Ayan stood near the doorway, respectfully distant. This was where everything changed, Sayla said softly. Ayan nodded. Funny how the smallest mistakes do that. She turned to him. Do humans believe in fate? She asked. Ayan thought for a moment. We believe in choice, he said. Fate just shows up to see what we'll do with it. Sayla smiled. Then, for the first time, she stepped forward without fear of being seen. Years later, when historians tried to explain how a quiet human technician altered the balance of power in an entire region of space, they struggled. There was no great battle, no heroic sacrifice, no final explosion, just a door that shouldn't have existed, and a human who walked through it. And that became the lesson the galaxy never forgot. Humans don't need to be the strongest species. They just need to care. And once they do, they change everything.